Hey everyone, it's Jacob again. I'm making another Samoan grammar video. And if you haven't tuned into this channel before or seen other videos, basically, I'm someone who learned Samoan as a 19-year-old serving as a missionary in Samoa. So I come from an English-speaking background. Obviously, they would call me a parangi. I never heard Samoan before, and I decided to try it. But when I learned Samoan, I came back and I taught Samoan for a few years to other missionaries going out. And I really just wanted to put together some videos that I thought might be helpful, particularly for those of Samoan heritage, but maybe grew up in the States or Australia or New Zealand and just didn't pick up on it when hearing it in the home, or maybe they didn't hear it in the home but would like to reconnect. It also might be helpful for anyone wanting to visit Samoa or those that have Samoan friends and family, like an in-law or something like that, just to try and get more familiar with the culture and obviously be more conversant, when visiting or speaking with others. So anyway, I try and make these videos. I try and keep them relatively short that hopefully put together some of the building blocks of being able to speak Samoan. So I've got a few others besides this. If this is the first time tuning in, I would probably check out a whole lot of other videos before I get to this one. Anyway, now that I've said that, today I wanted to put together a short video on what I'm calling adverb directional words. And basically, just to start out with, if you're not familiar, an adverb is a word that modifies a verb. And in Samoan, there's a particular class of these adverbs that really sort of illustrate the direction that a verb is moving. So I'll get into that in a minute. So as always, pretty short topic list today. Really just going to introduce the verb direction words, and then I'm going to introduce some vocab and then encourage some kind of practice activity. Again, those of you that are new to the videos, I really encourage you to use whatever bit of language or lesson that you get from these videos right away. If you don't use them, you're definitely going to forget them. And if you feel like you don't have an outlet for using them, I would just say try and leverage your network, your Facebook friends or whatever, to try and get someone who's interested in practicing and learning with you. Sometimes it's actually better to have someone who is also learning at the same time than it is to have like a native speaker. A lot of times native speakers, they don't think of their language with all these grammar constructs and rules. They just speak it because they know how to do it and it just sounds right. So a lot of times it's not helpful to try and, use this type of language with a native speaker to try and understand why they say the things they do. It is great to talk to them to understand how it's really supposed to sound and what sounds normal, but they won't necessarily always be able to tell you the grammatical rule and as to why they do it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but just heads up. Anyway, with that being said, should be a pretty. Okay, so as I mentioned before, these adverbs, they adjust verbs, some verbs in Samoan, and illustrate the direction that that verb is going. So I've got this illustration in the middle of the page here, and the arrows are meant to sort of indicate what direction that adverb is trying to illustrate. And then you can think of if this was a sentence, that blue dot is like the subject of the sentence. So I'll kind of go around the clock here, and I'll try and talk about what each one means. So starting at the very top here, we're going to talk about ae. Ae means up. So whatever verb you happen to be modifying with ae, it just illustrates that the direction of that verb is going in an upward direction. Going down, you kind of see this little arrow. This is atu. Atu sends the direction of the verb towards the person being spoken to. So alofa means love. If you were to say alofa atu means the love is going towards the person being spoken to. So kind of like towards you, if I said it to you. Ese just means away, anywhere but here, away. Ane is a lateral movement that goes left or right, or side to side. Next is mai, and mai you hear all the time. Atu you hear all the time as well. Mai is the opposite of atu. Mai comes towards the speaker, whereas atu goes towards the subject, or the object of the sentence. So if you were to say alofa mai, what you're asking is that someone give love to you. And if you're saying alofa atu, you're saying that love is going towards the person being spoken to. This will make a little bit more sense, I think, when we do more examples. Ifo just means down. You don't hear it all that much, but it illustrates a downward direction that the verb it might be going. And then again, just rounding out the circle here is ane again. Again, ane is left or right. It's not specific one way or the other, or side to side. So I just kind of illustrated it twice here. So one more time, ae is up. Its opposite would be ifo. So ae is up, ifo is down. Atu is towards the person's being spoken to. Mai is towards the speaker. Ese is away. And then ane is from side to side. There might be more that I'm just forgetting. So if you know of one, please leave it in the comments. Anyway, the examples that I've got down below are wa'alu letama, wa'alu letama. So just a refresher, wa is our tense marker, alu is the verb, and letama is the subject of our sentence. He's the one doing the verb. So alu is to go, letama is boy. Because we're using ua tense, that's the sort of present perfective. It's the boy has gone. Now, when we add our directional words to this, this is how it kind of would translate into English. This is the modification. So instead of saying wa'alu letama, we might say wa'alu ese letama. And that means the boy has gone away. We could say wa'alu ifo letama, wa'alu ifo letama. And that's the boy's gone down. Now, ideally, this is like down the stairs or down the mountain. So yeah, obviously, the context of the sentence would sort of help us make sense. Wa'alu ane letama. Wa'alu ane letama. This means the boy has gone to the side. Let's say, to the next door house maybe, or something like that. So hopefully that makes sense as to how these things present themselves. The one thing I want to stress, and I think I cover this in the next slide, so I'll move on, is that in Samoan, if you left out the directional adverb, for the most part, people are going to know exactly what you're saying. It's not like this critical component. So, some of these videos I'm going to be making going forward are going to be for lesser known or probably less important grammar structures. And this is one of those where it absolutely has a meaning. You will hear it all the time. You'll see it written all the time. But is it absolutely imperative that you put these in there? Sometimes it is, like in the atu and the mai. Sometimes that's really important. But most of the time, people get the direction from context in addition to these words, and they'll get it even if you don't know it. So I would be less concerned that you master the use of this yourself. I think it's important that you understand the meaning. Otherwise, it's always these words that will sort of confuse you, or you won't know what it's supposed to be. But I wouldn't beat yourself up or really just rack your brain if this is something difficult to get a hold of. You'll be pretty much okay without these. And if I really had to learn two of these, it would definitely be mai and atu. That would be the most important. That being said, I still think it's, give it a try and try and incorporate it into how you're speaking. So what I'd recommend is that, again, in addition to listening for these words or trying to look for these types of words, if you're reading a Samoan text, which again, I'd recommend you do, I would try adding the words to sentences. So what I've recommended is, again, here's a few verbs in Samoan that can take on these adverbs pretty easily. And then I got the English translation there, and I would just practice putting these into sentences. So again, that kind of helps you exercise your verb sentence structure, which I cover in a different video. And hopefully gives you something to practice, and hopefully you have someone to practice with. So I'll go down the list again. I'll pronounce the Samoan. I'll try and do that slowly. And then you got the English translation, and then really you can kind of have at it and put these into sentences however you like. So I'll go down the list starting at the top with malanga. Malanga. Malanga means travel. You may remember it from a different video on questions where the way you ask where someone is from, you might say, Ofe ete malanga mayai. And you can already hear an adverb word there. Ofe ete malanga mai. Mai is that adverb meaning here. Mayai. What that literally translates to is, where do you travel from? Again, mai kind of means towards here. So someone might ask you that in Samoan. Oh, where do you come from? Ofe ete malanga mayai. All right, folau. Folau is another movement word. This one means to sail or to embark. I suppose you could say that. So you can use folau with atu. You can say folau ese. You can put adverbs under this as well. Va'ai. Va'ai is to see. So where are you looking at? So you could definitely use atu there. You could say va'ai mai. Look towards me, please. If you were a teacher, you'd probably end up saying that quite a bit to your students. Tirutilo. Tirutilo is similar to va'ai. It means to look. Alofa. I touched on this in the prior slide, but alofa is to love, and that is a word that can take on these directional adverbs. Alu, we covered that in the examples in the prior slide as well. Alu is to go, takes on these adverbs very, very easily. Toso, toso is to pull. Again, toso mai, it definitely goes with toso mai. Now that I'm thinking about it, it probably doesn't go with too many other adverbs because I don't know how you pull away, but you probably could. Toso ese, I suppose you could say that. Si'i. Si'i means to lift, and this takes on those adverbs pretty easily as well. Again, these movement verbs are very easy to pair with these adverbs. Ave, ave is to take. So ave ese is to take away. Ave mai, I guess you could say that kind of means to take to me, whatever it is you might be carrying. Lele, lele is another one that takes on these words pretty easily. It means to fly. So a bird might, lele ese, might fly away. It could lele mai, maybe the bird was coming to you. Maybe it just lele ane, maybe it went to a different tree to the side, something like that. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. I really hope this was short. And let me know in the comments, please, if this is something that you appreciate or that you like or you want more of. Let me know, put it in the comments or hit the like button or subscribe. All those things just kind of help me know that this is something that's worth putting out there. So I do appreciate those that are watching and that do those things. Anyway, and then obviously let me know if there's certain things you actually want a video on, because I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of running out of some of the basic ideas. So definitely let me know if there's questions you have, or hey, why does this work the way that it does? I can't guarantee that I know the answer, but I'll do my best to take a crack at it. So hopefully that helps. Thanks. Bye.